Yeah, give us a little gauge on would you have kept up with Lord of the Rings?
Probably not.
Wait, you said you wouldn't have even started without
No,
this.
I wouldn't. If it wasn't for us like doing it as a group, there's no way I would have read it on my own. I just don't have like an interest that much into diving deeper because I felt content with the movies. But I also saw it, how many, was that 20 years ago?
Content to watch the movies once in 20 years.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
This is crazy. I don't know if you would ever do this, but sometimes I'll just like flip through a book until I find an interesting part, and then I'll read that, and then I'll get interested, and then I'll start.
I've done that before too.
Wow.
So maybe that could have happened.
I don't know. I'm like
That's
more in
bizarre.
Or I'll read the last page first. That's like my normal thing, but I'm not doing that
is
now.
actually
So.
But you
serial
know how it
killers.
ends,
Not.
so that's what's so funny.
Because like the end makes absolutely no sense when you read it first, but it's like kind of interesting. Like I did that with the Goldfinch, and I was like, okay, I see where this is going.
Wow.
And then it like gives me an understanding of like how to think about the story, because the last page is like way more broad scope than like the beginning story, which is like very plot. So I was like, oh, I see how I'm like supposed to process this book, and then I just like go through it like that.
Wow.
But
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is a crazy way to read. It's fun.
hey, I have free will.
Good for you, yeah.
Yeah, respect.
Respect it, but that's crazy.
So, Jen, how much are you liking this now? How far do you think you're going to make it?
I don't know.
The whole way.
I think I'm just saying it would be only because we're like coming together and discussing it. I think I would have given up on it already because I listen to it and I'm not really listening to it ever. Like it's just on, and I try to focus, and then they start singing, and then I'm out, and then I focus, and they're repeating something. I already know that, so then I'm out again. So I just feel like I don't know.
I think it would be better. I think after we finish book 1, we should do all the movies. And
I know. I keep telling him that. I'm like, if we watch it,
idea.
I feel like then I'll be more engaged in the story again because I don't really remember it. There's certain parts that stick out, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Like literally, I had to ask him to summarize the first 2 chapters because I don't remember what happened. To me, I was like, you know, a couple of things, and that's all I got. And then I missed a huge part. I was like, oh, I totally missed that.
You mean when I said Gandalf died?
Yeah.
You were like, oh, that's what happened?
No way.
I mean, I guess it did happen quick, but still.
Granted, I probably was listening to it not the right spaces. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not like excited to like listen to it quietly with no distractions. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to listen to it.
It's a chore.
So I will put it on. The last chapter, I was more focused. And I feel like, okay, it was getting into a little bit more, like, what am I trying to say? Just like a, more into the storyline of like action happening and like not just talking about the ring and all the people and all the generations. Like I don't care about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
These are the first 3 chapters that I read simultaneously while listening.
Oh, cool.
So I had it on, but I also was kind of reading along with Andy Serkis.
And that helped.
And it helped a ton.
Yeah.
Like it made me more interested in the whole story. There were some times when I couldn't actually read it. Like I had to go get up and do something. So I like just kept it on my headphones and then just like did something for like 5-10 minutes and then came back and started reading again.
So that's what I need to do.
But I think it's a little bit more helpful. Also, again, it's more helpful, I think, if you've seen the movies. So I think at the end of book 1,
Definitely.
Well, yeah, because you guys are like so excited, and you're like, "Oh, that's this part," and I'm like, "I don't remember."
And like half my notes in this chapter or these 3 chapters are like, "This is so different from the books, and this is so different from the movies," and you know, you got to think about this, and it's all slightly different things from the movies that I'm kind of intrigued about and excited about.
Yeah.
So then you only have to get through a little more of the book.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Just Spark Note it, or just like ChatGPT. Give me a summary of Lord of the Rings chapter.
That's me.
Book
I'm
2,
your ChatGPT.
chapter 4.
Yeah. not sure most people get like, when do people stop?
Yeah, I mean,
fair point.
My first read of Lord of the Rings, I stopped before book 1 was over. I
Yeah,
read
same.
like the first 4 chapters, and I
I
was
don't
like,
even
this
remember,
isn't.
yeah.
I'm like, this is too much.
But see, and then when you're with, like, I don't know, or is it because you're with people that you're like, yeah, I can do this, or is it a different mindset where you're like, I'm into this now, or?
I don't know. Maybe. I think so. I think it's both. I think reading it with other people always helps.
Yeah, that's what I learned from the first book club I ever went to. I was like, oh, I could get into this.
Yeah.
I didn't read before. Only what I had to, and that was Pink Monkey and what's the other site?
What? I don't even know.
You don't know Pink Monkey?
No, I was like, what are you
man. Great,
What
yeah.
is that?
Pink Monkey is the same as
Spark Notes?
yes.
Yeah.
Why is it called Pink Monkey?
I don't know. It's a great question.
And like some of them had
That's
had
so
better summaries on Pink Monkey. They were probably shorter.
Yeah. If I was a high school student at this time, at this day and age, I wouldn't do anything. Oh my gosh, with ChatGPT or like any AI, I would just be like, give me a summary of this book. Even like writing an essay, because
know.
they have to. The school, they have to handwrite their essays now when they're in like school, which
Oh,
would be
that's
annoying.
good.
But I would still be like the morning before or on my phone on the way to school. Give me a 5-paragraph essay on this. I'd read all the bullet points, all the notes,
Yeah.
and just go into class and just write that
Oh
out.
my gosh, that's so.
I wouldn't do
funny.
anywhere.
Are they doing it in cursive?
Probably. Chris is dead.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But let's jump into this. Welcome to the podcast. I'm John,
Jen.
Danny.
And Lizzie.
and this is the Fellowship of the First Time Readers. Okay, so chapter 16. Let's talk about a summary of chapter 16. This is A Journey in the Dark.
Don't look at me.
We're all waiting on Jen to give her summaries.
Yeah. Not happening.
Chapter 4.
So this is basically where they enter
Mm-hmm.
the mines of Moria.
I mean, like, how many songs were in these few chapters?
I don't even
Not
notice
that
because
many.
to me, I was like,
There's like 4.
There was-
are there a lot? I don't know.
Or maybe they were just talking. It's not
They're
I
like
think
they
they were
long.
just long songs.
They're long.
When
so-
you texted and you're
I
like,
was
there's a
like,
lot of
nope.
songs in these chapters, I was like, oh, great. Because I hate songs too.
That's so funny.
And then all of a sudden I read these and I was like, I think there was like 3 songs in this.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And there,
Well,
you know
it
what?
must have
When
been
you're
that
listening, it
first-
might feel worse because there could be like
is worse.
a one-liner little
Yeah.
song that's not really, but it kind of feels like it.
Anyways, all right.
One quick note
Felt
And-
like too many.
on the Ringo South.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause you,
When I actually read it to catch up, I'm starting to. Here's the thing, I'm trying to get planetary about it and understand how big is this planet.
Mm-hmm.
It apparently has 1 moon. It probably mimics Earth, but my theory is it's smaller than Earth.
Ooh, okay.
But the way they said it's going to get warmer when they go south makes me think northern hemisphere. And now I'm just curious, how big is this planet? If it's smaller than Earth, but it's warmer as they go
That's a
south, so they're going to
fascinating
notice a
question.
difference. But based on the scale of what we've seen so far, it would have to be smaller than Earth, only based on climate. But then I'm even thinking there is a possibility of, from the Grey Havens, when the elves go over the sea, that they're just going to another land. They don't
Another
have
continent,
technology.
yeah.
How could they ever, like there's just another continent on the other side of the earth, and it's probably amazing and awesome, so nobody ever comes back from it, because why would you? And so I was like, I'm going to continue to try and gauge the size of Middle Earth as we go.
Wait, is Middle Earth the
That's a
planet
great-
or the continent?
I mean, honestly, it must be the continent.
Okay.
So what is this planet? I don't know.
Maybe there's Middle Earth, there's
You
Left
were
Earth.
totally
Yeah, we gotta go to Left Earth.
a Lord of the Rings
Yeah, it's a good point. This
fan
is
right
middle.
here.
That's so interesting.
And I'm sure there's more in the lore, but
Yeah,
I don't want to
apparently
Google
that's
anything
the
yet.
thing.
So we'll see what the books tell us.
Yeah, I think Googling is a little dangerous. But that's a fascinating point. I never thought about that. Because they say that the journey would have taken a few months to get all the way to the parts of Rohan, I think, and they're kind of at
that
Rivendell.
sounds right.
So I imagine Middle Earth to be about the size of the half the continental U.S. Like in my head, it's like the
That makes
size of
sense.
Alaska.
Okay, nice.
And if that's the case, I feel like the planet's pretty small.
Right, it would have to be.
Yeah.
I think, but I mean, it can be warmer as it goes south and not
There's
like
a
too big.
picture
But
in our book.
of like the land,
Yeah.
yeah, there is.
I meant like one of his illustrations.
Oh, we should have brought that book.
Yeah, no.
The one we got for Christmas with all the original JRR pictures he drew. Yeah, that's a cool one.
I wonder if it's in
Oh,
there.
and I forgot I'm supposed to read Appendix F. That was referenced in one of these chapters, but I never went to read it.
Yeah, I saw that too. Also, this whatever this planet is, it has magnetic poles, right? Because how else would they know northeast, southwest?
It's true. And the moon-
geology of the planet. I love
know.
this so far.
Can you just be on a different axis though, and that changes the seasonality?
I mean, it could, but that's what I've been trying to eye up the mountains. So they're constantly talking about like the mountains, and the moon is always rising in the east and setting in the west, and they've mentioned that a few times, just like the sun. So for it to be consistently doing that, the axis, I guess that just means it's spinning.
We
got
gotta pay attention to shadows.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one reference to a shadow on the mountain that said north, but it was more like a hint, so it wasn't super clear. So I said I need more than just this vague reference.
Well, we know how many miles the journey was,
Right, and he keeps
So-
making really specific mileage
Yeah.
tallies. So somebody has done this math, I'm sure.
Where are you in your journey to Middle Earth?
I'm not.
You quit?
On my
Whoa.
Strava though, I was on the Stairmaster and I had that Aragorn shirt on, so I titled it like "On My Way to whatever that staircase is." That's like I don't remember what it's called.
That's great.
And then I got kudos, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go."
Kudos from Aragorn himself.
Yep,
It's my motivation on the Stairmaster. Just like imagine myself
Lord of the Rings.
on those steps.
that's so great.
Yikes! I don't last long on that. Though.
Yeah.
Okay, but chapter 16, A Journey in the Dark, when they're kind of finally going through Moria. Now, one of the first things that I noticed about Moria, and I thought very different from the movies, is that no one wants to go to Moria. In the movies, they're so Jen, on the movies, they're on top of this snowy mountain, and they're like, we're all gonna die up here. We have to get down, and then they're like, let's go around another way. And Gimli's like, if we're going to pass over the mountains, let's pass under them. Let's go through the mines of Moria. And only Gandalf at that moment is like, oh, no, that's a bad idea. But he elects to do it because Frodo wants to do it. And the whole rest of the company, the whole rest of the fellowship,
Oh yeah, Frodo
they're all
makes
kind
it
of like,
go, right.
not like
Yeah.
excited to go, but they're all like ready to go and get out of the snow. In this, it's crazy because one of the lines in this is, the road that I speak of leads to the mines of Moria, said Gandalf. Only Gimli lifted up his head. A smoldering fire was in his eyes. On all the others, dread fell at the mention of that name. Even to the hobbits, it was a legend of vague fear. Which is crazy
That is
to me.
crazy.
So like everyone, it makes more sense because everyone in Middle Earth would know that this place is a place of dread and a place of like terror. And it makes the movies make no sense. That was always, now that I think about it, that wasn't always a qualm I had with the movies. How does Gimli not know what he's walking into when he's walking into
Yeah,
Moria?
because he was like, "This is my homeland.
Yeah.
These are my people." And then it was like, "Oh, there's orcs in here. Like
Yeah.
they took over."
Yep.
But it wasn't inherently a terrifying place. And then in this, everybody's like scared to go.
Because again, in the movies,
And
he
it
walks
seems
into Moria.
terrifying in the
Yeah,
book.
he walks into the mines and he's like, "Soon you're going to be feasting with the dwarves. You're going to know the
Oh,
warm hospitality of the
yeah.
dwarves."
He
Yeah.
literally thought.
Yeah, and he's
that-
like, red meat right off the bone. And then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, this isn't a mine, it's a tomb." And all these like dead bodies are around and they run around. It's crazy. Jen, you're going to love this, promise.
Why are you doing this to me? We need to watch it.
I promise.
We're
As soon as we're
close.
done.
We'll get there.
Maybe we'll
I
just...
know how it ends.
The
And
movies?
soon you're
You
gonna
should've
know
not
all
said
the
that
stuff in between.
Gandalf died, and then you could have experienced that in the movie.
Yeah, so true.
That was a big moment.
I do remember it.
The movie? How
That
movie
scene.
one ends or how the entire thing ends?
I mean, I've seen all.
Oh,
the
because the ring,
movies.
yeah. That's
When
right.
Gandalf died in the movie, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, "This can't be happening." This is
Beginning
real.
too.
You and the hobbits.
It was terrible.
Killer.
But Moria seems darker than I expected. It was kind of cool. It makes more sense in the books than it does the movies.
So they're all scared of it. Like, it wasn't scary when the dwarves lived in it, right? Like, why was
No.
Aragorn afraid of it? He's been there since.
I think he just knows the
Everyone
legend. I
left.
don't think he's been in there.
Because was the Balrog in there the whole time?
Okay,
Like, when did he
question.
come in?
In the movies, Gandalf seems to know the Balrog is in there, and he seems to like succumb to his fate of the Balrog. In the books, Gandalf is surprised by the Balrog. He like doesn't really register as a Balrog until he like sees the Balrog. And Legolas is the one who screams, "Aye, a Balrog!"
Yeah, which is
Something like
so
that.
funny.
Something
You're
along
reading it.
those
I was like,
lines,
what?
Yeah. But it seems like no one knows what's going on here, which, again, because Rings of Power, too, with the Rings of Power, you have that one section where, who is it? Durin, like confronts the Balrog at the end of season 2.
We didn't get to the end of season 2.
Sorry, excuse me, spoiler alert.
Maybe we should finish that. That'll keep you engaged.
Yeah.
in the
I
world.
keep telling him this, and he
Well,
keeps
because at
saying
first we were
no.
holding off, and now it
By
feels
the
like
way, I
we
was
need to
just
keep
looking
you
it up
engaged.
from
It's
the
wide
movies.
open.
Yeah.
I was
But
looking at.
the dwarves woke something up in Moria.
And this is what you said where they got
Oh,
greedy.
I did say that.
Oh.
I always said I remember that in the Rings of Power, they started something, and
They were digging too
and
deep.
we saw the black slime.
Yeah, that's right.
And
That's right.
it
And
starts
that's
like-
all
to
we
leave, yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
know. We're like, something bad is
Yeah.
happening here.
Yes.
Okay, great. So finish season 2. It's not great, but that part at least was intriguing.
I'm
to me.
easy to please. These people with their like.
I've already seen John's
Critics.
video about it, and I'm cringing at what's to come.
I don't care. I like.
No, you
pretty
gotta form
much
your own
anything.
opinions.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
like
cool.
watching anything. Reading.
No, to be
Yeah.
honest, there are I think good parts of
I'm
the
like-
series, like that small little parts, like this. So this part of the series
This
did
is,
add lore
but
to
it's
it.
helping me
Yeah,
understand
agreed.
this.
Fully
Yeah,
agreed.
yeah.
So I like that, and I'm a visual person, so not seeing the movies
Yeah.
for years, and then I recently saw Rings of Power, some of it. It's like that is more. This is like it's more intriguing for me because
I'm surprised
relate the
how
two.
much. Yeah, this connects directly to Rings of Power. Like there are a
Yeah.
lot of reference to the characters and places.
but it helps me with the timeline. It
Yeah.
helps me with the characters. Like you're doing a disservice to me, guys.
All right, we'll redeem ourselves. Don't worry.
So this is maybe this is a question for you guys. Where is Gimli from? Is he from Moria? What is he from? The Iron Hills? Is he an Iron Hill dwarf?
I thought of him as being somewhere way up north where he's been his whole life. But I don't know who originally came from Moria when it was originally built, and then they all left, and then who went back? Balin went
Yeah.
back. So then like all of that just feels a little weird. I don't fully get it. But I think he was from just the north.
It says Gimli made his home in Rohan in the glittering caves of Aglarond, and many of his kinfolk came with him. After Aragorn reestablished the northern realm of Gondor, so this is after, I guess.
Oh, yeah,
Many
okay.
dwarves also made their home in the north, in the Blue Mountains and the Iron Hills.
Where's his dad from?
Gimli,
Oh.
son of Gloin. Where is Gloin from? The Lonely Mountain.
Wait, who? Gloin is from the Lonely Mountain? Oh.
I guess that makes sense because they're going to take back their homeland.
It might have said in many meetings where they came from.
Yeah, that makes
But-
sense. Jen, for
we-
your reference, the Lonely Mountain is like The Hobbit. So it's where The Hobbit takes place.
Oh,
And that's how Bilbo knows all of them from the journey to the Lonely Mountain, right? I'm
Yeah.
getting that right?
Yeah, and someone says
And that's where
Moria was
Gimli's-
abandoned 1,000 years before the story,
Oh,
which is
Oh,
wild.
dang.
my.
So this thing is like absolutely in legend. It's like almost,
Yeah,
it's
wow.
like it's almost like mythic at this point.
does it talk about what this Balrog
yeah.
is? I'm just reading.
You gotta look it up.
about it.
I'm like, it
It
doesn't
looks cool.
say much, to be honest.
Yeah, the description of a Balrog was short, but it was potent. It says, "What it was could not be seen. It was like a great shadow, in the middle of which was a dark form, of man shape maybe, yet greater, and a power and terror seemed to be in it and go before it." It's got like this mystical element to it that you don't really know what the heck is going on. It's like a shadow and flame. It's like a fantastic little.
Yeah, this
Demon
thing is
thing.
saying.
That's one thing I noticed about the book is like, if I didn't know what that was from the movie, I would not have a good understanding of that. I would not know what the Undying Lands are, like what the sea is. None of that's described. And I'm like still confused about that.
Breakdown? Like what? Like this kind of key?
I don't know.
What are you looking for?
It was breaking down the two parts of the word in Elvish language.
What are the two parts? Or it doesn't tell you what they mean.
No, it does. So
oh, actually, that might have... I don't know. Was that in the chapter?
So then I won't say it. That's what I was just asking.
Hold on, Lizzie. You said you're still confused about some of this?
I'm confused about the sea and the Undying Lands and where they all go.
Yeah.
I don't
Me
know.
too.
Okay, that's one thing about these books as well. Like as like a grand scope scheming thing, like the lore of this is so deep that it does confuse me too. Like Harry Potter is just like a children's story. Like I get that. There's nothing that really confuses me about that. She didn't really build out a ton of lore or like history or anything about this. Like everything makes sense within that. Lord of the Rings is like he built out this universe and just like threw a little story in this universe. But in his head, he already had the entire lore written out. And so like when they're mentioning like the Undying Lands, in Tolkien's mind, he's like, everyone should know what the Undying Lands are. And
That's what
like,
I feel like he drops these references and like
yeah.
you have to go find the lore to like understand it,
which I kind of love, but it's also awful when you're going through.
But then
one
I feel like
story.
you're missing, like I'm missing stuff. I don't know.
I'll say this: to me, it makes the story more believable because this is how people like talk. Like it makes the whole story like it makes me want to find where Middle Earth is as a planet because it feels like it's more out there. Yeah. It feels like this place exists because of how much lore surrounds it. But as far as like a tight-knit story, it's very meandering. Very, very meandering. Which is weird because they're like on a mission to get somewhere.
Yeah.
But it still feels like they're just like, oh, let's go into Moria. And I'm going to sing a 3-page song about the lore of Moria. And it was a terrible time to sing that song as well because Gandalf like kind of needs them to be quiet.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're hearing footsteps behind them and Gimli's like, I know Moria. It was like, okay.
I feel like equally scared of Moria as I do of the ring wraiths. I think Moria would take me out. I hate caves. I hate being underground. I would be gone.
But this cave system scares you?
Yes, it's pitch black and it's enormous. Just like empty space around you.
They were walking like 20 miles.
The
into one
scale of it
terrifying.
all, the amount of time they were walking, I'm like, how far? Oh my goodness. That would be creepy. Once you're like a certain number of miles in, you're like, there is nothing but rock in every direction. That would freak me out a little.
And then you're on like these little narrow staircases.
Okay, I love this. I'm getting a lot of info here. Moria,
crazy, right?
Another chat says Moria was built by Longbeards. This is the clan of dwarves that Gimli, Balin, Thorin, etc. are a part of. After Moria fell, their new main settlement was the Lonely Mountain. So Moria kind of predates the Lonely Mountain.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I thought these like dwarven settlements and cities were like all happening at the same time. But this makes more sense. This is kind of cool.
We don't know who this is, right?
No. Never heard of Melkor before.
I'm curious about where it came about, but it's funny because in the explanations, it's like you're saying, it's saying, oh, in Tolkien's like universe here, and then it's going into like the history of another person that's like not meant like the lore of it, like you're saying. I'm just like, wait, how does, and they're quoting Tolkien like with each thing. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, this is like all Wikipedia. It's like when you click on one article from Wikipedia and you go to another article and it just keeps going from one thing to the next. Like you can get so lost in this, which seems kind of fun, but it's the stories that you tell are just different. Like you have to include the entire realm when you're kind of telling these things. But I don't know. What do you guys think of Moria? What do you guys think of this chapter?
It was fun.
Yeah.
I felt like it was intrigue and suspense. You never really knew what was coming. And that's the beauty of these movies. It feels like they were just scratching the surface on some of this stuff. There's a lot of content out of the movies. Yeah. So you really don't know if something's going to happen. which makes it fun to read.
There's a few other differences even in the movies. Like, I loved, to me, hobbits in the movies have like the ability to understand riddles, and in the books, Gandalf is just the one that figured out the riddle to enter Moria, which I was like, that makes sense. He's wise, he knows what he's doing. But I love the idea in the movies when Gandalf like gives up. He like throws his staff and throws his hat and sits on a rock and he's like bummed. And then Frodo steps up and he's like, "It's a riddle. What's the Elvish word for friend?" Melon. And I'm like, "Oh, let's go. Frodo knows this."
Yeah.
But in the books, Gandalf is the one that just figures it out. Gandalf seems like he's like the main person who's trying to figure things out, and he knows where they're going, and everyone just is relying on him for like the trailblazing of this, which kind of makes sense because Gandalf's Gandalf. But I wouldn't mind if Aragorn stepped in a little bit. I like in the movies it does seem more of like a combination effort, to be honest.
I was so excited for these chapters because I don't know if you remember my theory from the movie, but I had like one headcanon that I really liked, and I was like, yeah, that's what happened. And I was hoping that I could like preserve it through reading the book, but it's totally not true. But after watching the movie, I thought when they get stuck at those 3 doors and they wait, I thought Gandalf like knew the way and he just paused so that Frodo could see Smeagol and he could have that conversation. So I was like, he was just stopping so that he could tell him, "Don't kill Smeagol," and like that was on purpose. And then they had that conversation, they up and left. But then in the book, it's like Gandalf is so much more confused. They're stopping all the time. They're just like discussing which way do we go. And then Smeagol, we haven't even like seen yet. Like he's just still crawling around in the back,
but he's lurking.
He's so
he's between the pages.
I do not like him.
He's lurking way closer than I thought. And at first you're like, is Frodo going a little nuts, or is he really picking up on this? What did it say earlier? He can hear really well compared to other people. So then I was like, what is it? And then the elves confirm it. You're like, it's not in his head. He is seeing these things. Like, wow, he is way too close for comfort in all of this.
In trees. Is this the same elves that let him go for walks and stuff? Okay.
Different.
So
breed.
is he like planning this? Like
I know.
He's preparing his skills.
This is like the lore.
Was
be next.
Gollum preparing his skills?
Yeah, like he knows how to climb trees, and then he goes to the other elves that live in the trees.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Like, why else would you do that? Like, where else are you climbing trees?
Like a Rocky montage of Gollum like training in the trees. He's like doing pull-ups because he knows he's gonna get the ring, and he knows he's gonna get a Lothlorien. And like there's great. Like the Rocky theme music behind it.
2 other little things that I noted. Gandalf says when they're kind of like hesitant about Moria, they compare it to a stronghold of Sauron, and Gandalf says, "I alone of you have ever been in the dungeons of the Dark Lord." I was like, "Oh, he has?
Oh gosh.
What the? When?"
Yeah.
And then later, like Aragorn mentions that he has been to Moria before. So again, just like the amount of missions these people have been on for random things in fighting for good in Middle Earth is crazy.
I remember that line from listening, and I thought he was talking about when he got kidnapped by the
as
wizard.
Like a dungeon of Sauron, you know, kind of. It almost is like a
like I was in the dark.
Yeah, even though it was
evil,
Saruman's thing, it kind of was of Sauron. So maybe that's what he was referencing.
Yeah, I forgot the 2
And
names.
it's interesting too because the dialogue. I'm just constantly comparing this to Harry Potter. The dialogue in Harry Potter is different because it's kids who are thinking these things and having like this conversation. When the adults come in, it just seems like a bunch of slughorns who are on this trip and just want to swap stories. And like they're trying to, it seems like a grandpa thing. Like you're trying to outdo one another with your cool stories. Yeah. Like Gandalf just sneaking a line in. "Oh, I've been to the Dark Lords, like dungeons." I can just imagine like Mary and Pippin are like, "Pause, hold on. Tell us the story. What's going on? Have you really been? That's ridiculous."
Fine,
like,
I'll bite. Tell us the story.
Yeah.
And then Gandalf's like, "Fine, okay. Here's the 5-page song I'm gonna sing for you."
This was a really good summary.
Jen's learning about Silmarillion over here.
Ooh, I love this.
Yeah,
Jen's gonna be our lore master in like a month when she watches the movies.
Right. No,
She's
it just the
like,
Balrog. It was just talking about its
this.
origins, and it said if you haven't, You have to read that because that is pre.
Yeah.
These
That's like the
guys
whole history of,
talking.
I think, Middle Earth, right?
Yeah, but there's battles and wars, and there was a more evil person than Sauron. That I was talking about.
What's his name? Starts with an M.
Whoa. Dang, you just said it
Morgoth.
Morgoth.
That sounds like a familiar name, but I don't know why.
No,
I got
it's
nothing.
Yeah,
no.
Morgoth.
Morgoth.
No.
But yeah, the one you're saying is Melkor, and I don't know what either of these people are.
Morgoth is mentioned, I think, in the first season of Rings of Power.
No.
Maybe that's why it's familiar.
I think. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I think you're right.
This podcast is all over the place right now. Jen's doing research.
I'm
We're
sorry.
just having
It's
side
my, you need to
conversations
mute
about this.
my mic.
No, I love this.
I'm
This is great.
wrong.
This is what the people have come for, you know?
I like that Celebrimbor is the one who drew the signs on the door.
Yeah.
Again, giving us a gauge, something else we know from Rings of Power, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, any connections there, I love.
And then I was trying to decipher the writings in here, and then I think that on this symbol on the door was the number 5, but then I was like, what's that about? And that was just based on the appendix and my Elvish comparison.
Danny's like going through the appendix here. The main thing I was concerned about in this chapter, and this is the question that I have for you guys, because I don't know if I missed this or if it was just left unknown because the Fellowship doesn't know this. Is Bill the Pony dead?
No.
That was so sad.
That was so
That was
sad.
Sam. That was so sad.
And
He was
Sam's
really having a
emotion in
crisis.
that
He was
scene,
like,
yeah.
I have to choose between
Yeah.
Frodo and the Hobbit.
And then when he like had to make a choice and like
Yeah.
finally goes in, he's like, I chose because of you.
Yeah.
I'm here because of you, and Bill's dead.
Bill can't be dead.
I'd like to think he's just out
Yeah.
grazing
You know, I
happily.
literally thought in the movies, I feel like this was a thing where Bill runs off and we never see him again. But in the books, there's hope. I want to see him again.
I know. I hope that we see him again. That was just like that was a sad scene. Because I just lost all my train of thought there. Oh, because there's one scene where Gandalf seems to like light his hands on Bill and like give him a wizardly blessing. And I don't know if that was real or not. Do you guys not remember what I'm talking
No,
about?
I don't remember that one.
So
Yeah, I
he
think so.
has this where, so this is a conversation. You will have to choose between Bill and your master. He'd follow Mr. Frodo into a dragon's den if I let him, protested Sam. It'd be nothing short of murder to turn him loose with all these wolves about. It will be short of murder, I hope, said Gandalf. He laid his hand on the pony's head and spoke in a low voice. Go with the guard and guiding on you, he said. You are a wise beast, and you have learned much in Rivendell. Make your way to places where you can find grass, and so come in time to Elrond's house, or wherever you wish to go. There, Sam. You will have quite as much chance of escaping wolves and getting home as we have. Now, one of my questions is Gandalf doing this to appease Sam, or is there some kind of wizardly blessing that he can give this horse?
I hope it's not just to appease
I know,
Sam. I
right?
hope there's magic in there.
I know. I love to imagine Bill like is, I don't know the word, like twinkled with magic right here, and
Yeah.
he is able to like, you know, as soon as the whole door is shut into Moria and like the Fellowship's in there, Bill's alone with this little tentacled octopus thing, and Bill like, you know, is fighting it and putting up he's like pulling out some kung fu against it because Gandalf gave him a
great.
blessing.
And he could go back to Rivendell or wherever his heart desires.
Yeah, I know,
mean,
yeah.
that's great.
I
Where's he
know.
gonna go?
I kind of thought it was fake, but
Yeah.
can't you just like call on that one elf name and didn't that like
Yeah,
strengthen?
seriously.
So maybe it works.
I know.
Maybe Bill can do that.
I know. I hope so.
Or
hope
Gandalf can
Bill's
impart
alive.
that into him. I feel like he could outrun wolves.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but also the wolves were pretty crazy because the wolves are in
Yeah.
the movie. This is one thing that for sure is not in the movie when they're like coming down off of this mountain pass, and they're all of a sudden they're like, we need to sleep, and they're like, oh no, these wolves are coming. We need to go first thing in the morning. And then the wolves start attacking them, and they're like stand back to back, and they're fighting these wolves. And even as they're going into Moria, they're hearing these wolves howling. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. There's like way more peril.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like that because then it's more animals that are falling to the dark side. You feel like that, more of the world is infected.
Yeah. Now, are these just wolves? These aren't riderless wolves, right?
Yeah,
They
I
are.
pictured them.
They are riderless.
Well, I picture them riderless.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All on the same page.
Oh, you know what? I was also picturing them as wargs, not wolves.
Yeah, I was
So
too.
I accidentally made them more big and crazy.
Are they though?
Wait, what is a warg?
Like that'd be from the
Warg is a
second
big
movie,
wolf.
like the
Yeah,
things
thank
that the orcs
Let me see.
ride.
Yeah, when
but they
Saruman
kind of look
goes, send out your
wolfy.
warg riders.
like they look like giant hyenas a little bit. They're like hunchback little
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, Jen, look it up.
So these might have
Wargs.
just been
Oh, that's-
normal wolves,
That's
though.
how I was picturing them.
Or
too.
maybe just
Yeah.
like beefed up wolves, but
Middle-earth
normal-ish.
wolves.
Wait. Can you
I also picture
Yeah.
Bill very small and like weak little pony, not like a normal horse. Not weak, but just like a miniature pony, hobbit size.
Yeah. He's like little Sebastian in Parks and Rec. He's got like the little mini horse. He just is
Yes.
walking around.
Mini horse.
I love Bill. He's probably my favorite. And my favorite member of the Fellowship, the 10th member of the Fellowship, is now gone.
Lost our first
I
soldier.
know. Did you guys have anything else in the journey in the dark before we go on to the next?
I just thought it was interesting that Frodo mentioned the grim wound had not been without effect. Like he was blaming some of his current issues on the wound from the blade that he was stabbed with.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was interesting that he thought it was caused by that and not the ring or some other kind of like healing from Rivendell. Oh, I remember, because he was saying this is where he said he could hear better.
Yeah,
And he
that's
was
right.
like,
That's
I must
right.
be more in touch with some other realm because of that stabbing. Now, maybe it's his own body and he could feel the difference, but I'm like, why not credit that to the ring or
Yep.
the magic of Rivendell that they, gave him some kind of magic tea. But instead he credited that blade, the Morgul blade. So interesting.
That was really interesting. And again, it's gonna constantly be in my head for how the ring is affecting him through this entire thing. Because I don't know if the movies are going to portray that really well, but maybe in the book, those little things that happen, like he is more perceptive of things in the dark, are really because of the ring.
Yeah.
Because of the
Well,
Morgul
and
blade.
it even said see more in the dark than any of his companions.
Yeah.
Save perhaps Gandalf. And I was like, what about Legolas?
I
He's
know,
got
yeah.
elf eyes. I mean,
know.
isn't that he's supposed to be the best at this?
Yeah, seriously.
All right, let me see if
feel
there's
like
anything
you're
else.
Speaking Spanish.
There's so many little things to note. Epic song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to dwarf metal. My old roommate used to send me dwarf metal
Dwarf
songs.
metal. I love that.
And they sing about rock and stone and mining and
Wow.
So when this song came along, I was picturing it pretty metal.
I could see that in my head now. That's only what I'm gonna think is he breaks it down. He's like, "Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me?"
That was it.
It was it in this chapter or the next one too, when they walk into like the Dwarven city. It's one of my favorite sections in the entire movie when they walk into Dwarodelf. And like the music kind of swells and stuff like that, but it's the pillars that are holding this,
Oh,
this
yeah.
mountain up, pretty much. And it's like it almost looks like a huge city, but it's a cool thing to note too, that when they walk into this, and this is like even what you're saying, which with how these chapters are creepy, it's like when you're in pitch black and you like are walking through like a cave system, but then all of a sudden the cave opens, even though it's still pitch black and you can't feel anything, you can like sense it, and it almost becomes creepier.
I hate the feeling of like empty darkness around.
Yeah,
it.
that's a
It's
good way to
so
say it.
bad.
Empty
That's what it is.
darkness.
You just don't know when it ends, and you don't know what's there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, can anything see me? Like, am I a target?
That whole section is so creepy when they walk into this like dwarven city and it's completely blacked out. But then Gandalf lights up his staff a little bit,
So cool.
and then like it's like a little flash, and then I think that the thing says like things scattered, and I didn't know if that was
Ew.
just because like the flash and it looked like things scattered, or if like there were still like a bunch of things hiding around him. Like how terrifying would that be if you like illuminates a little more light, and like 10 feet outside of where they're like walking, there's
Yeah.
like a bunch of orcs. Hey, what's up,
Whoa.
buddy?
It's like when you turn on the light and like cockroaches
Yeah.
like scatter
Yeah.
away. It's like that, but 10
Yep.
times worse.
Ooh.
Yep,
The
terrifying
orcs.
stuff. Absolutely terrifying stuff of nightmares.
Also, later it said it was like 100 orcs following them. Like that's a
Yeah.
huge amount.
That is a massive
Yeah.
amount of
That's
orcs.
crazy.
Yeah. Or orcs? Are these orcs or goblins? It mentioned they're orcs, right?
There,
It did mention orcs a few
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
I don't know if it mentioned goblins, but like
There's
orc
trolls.
scimitars, like I think you
Yeah.
know, like things like that.
Yeah, trolls, exactly.
But yeah, it feels like it's a hodgepodge of different things.
Yeah.
so they're just living there, right?
I think they're just living there, yeah.
Yeah, go Gandalf.
Which is weird that they're living there because there's such like lore about Moria and everyone is terrified of it, but there's orcs that are living there. And have they not crossed the path of the Balrog? Why was the
But-
Balrog awoken at this moment?
Wouldn't they get along?
Yes.
The orcs and the Balrog.
The Balrog is an evil that everyone fears, I think, in Middle Earth. It's like an independent evil.
But it was Never mind. I was just reading up on it.
Jen
so
knows
I
all the lore.
can't-
Jen knows more lore than
Whoa,
we do.
you are becoming the lore
It was
master.
created by who?
It was just saying that the Dark Lord before Sauron.
Morgoth or Melkor. They're the same
Yeah,
thing.
Oh,
he's
they're
the
the
one
same.
that.
Nice.
that like created or. No, I already forgot. But
Because it does feel like it was a little bit more drawn towards Gandalf and the others, but I feel like maybe the orcs have just learned
said
to
that-
cohabitate a little bit. Even if they're scared of it, they're like, all right, don't make noise, don't shine bright lights, just be dark and
well,
hide.
in Elvish, it means like demon of power or power demon or demon of might. Apparently,
Ooh.
is what the name of a Balrog is. But then it said that after there was this war, they went to hide underground, and that's why this Balrog is probably.
Oh, interesting.
In the
That's
cliff.
crazy.
Yeah, because after this big war, which the battle I was just saying from the other book by Tolkien, Middle Earth, part of Middle Earth was destroyed, and they went to hide these creatures.
Whoa. So they like went into hibernation. Imagine like an army of these creatures. That would be the most terrifying thing in the world.
Oh
That'd be
my.
Yeah,
insane.
this was really interesting. I'm hoping it's accurate. It does quote a lot.
You're getting hooked on this
That was
lore.
great.
You're like, Wikipedia writes
That's because
compelling.
it's so tiny. I can
Yeah, it's
handle
easy to
little
process.
like
Yeah.
paragraphs,
That's
and I want to
great.
understand why. Sorry, we can. delete
Jen's not going to
this.
understand any of the Lord of the Rings, but we're going to be like, oh, what about this creature? And Jen's going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
I know all the lore about
Yeah,
this
yeah,
thing. I love that. These things do seem weird too, and that makes sense that if they like went and they hibernated, that they're waking these creatures up. But it was probably thousands of years before they woke these creatures up. And what was this one doing in Moria? That's like concerning. They seem to me like I thought of two things with this. Have you guys? Danny's probably the only one. Seen The Mandalorian? Have you seen The Mandalorian? Season 3?
I started but didn't finish.
Okay. Did you see the Mythosaur episode of season 3? Bummer. That
I
was
don't
the
think I
only
have.
good episode in season 3.
Is it far along in season 3?
It's when he goes into the waters and then bathes in the waters beneath the mines. Oh man, it was a great episode.
Oh, nice. I gotta
Fantastic.
get
It was like
that.
the only good episode, and I thought the whole
All right,
season was
good.
going to build up to this, but they didn't. So the Mythosaur is the creature that Mandalorian. We're going into whole other lore here. This is great. I love this.
Yeah, double lore.
We should call this lore of the rings.
Nice.
So the Mythosaur is the creature that Mandalorians, like the Mandalorian leader, would ride this Mythosaur.
My goodness, that
And
makes
it's like
so much
this
sense.
crazy, huge, like dinosaur water creature, and it's like it's thought to be extinct.
It's their symbol.
It's their symbol, yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That
So
makes
that's
sense.
their symbol. The skull of the Mythosaur is their symbol. So the Mandalorian ruler, because they think no more Mythosaurs exist, the Mandalorian ruler was chosen essentially by combat, and you're signaled as a Mandalorian ruler if you have the dark saber or not, which is like a lightsaber that is dark rather than light, and it's one of the coolest things ever in
Cool.
Star Wars. I love it so much.
I like
think it's
that.
sick.
Yeah.
So whoever's holding the dark saber owns and controls Mandalore. So there's going to be some people who probably have qualms with me for my language here, but that's how I understand it. But in one of those episodes, the Mandalorian is bathing in these waters to redeem himself, and Bo-Katan goes and dives after him. because the Mandalorian gets taken underwater by something, and she dives under and she saves him at the bottom of this like massive pool, and she starts bringing him up, and all of a sudden her light gets flashed on something on like a cave wall, and it's the mythosaur, and this thing is huge, and all of like that oxygen in her helmet just goes immediately up because she's like absolutely blown away by this thing. The Balrog felt like that to me. Like, this thing is just chilling in hibernation, and all of a sudden there's all these drums beating, and all of a sudden they're like, the Balrog's like, why are you waking me up from sleep? And he's pissed off at this. And I thought it was a cool little bit of like absolute terror. And the one other scene that I loved in this too was they seem to have like a magic battle. Gandalf and the
at the door.
The Balrog at the door, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that
I thought
was
it was
crazy.
great because Gandalf was like shutting this door, and he's like, "Oh, there's orcs. I'll easily do this." And then all of a sudden, whatever creature, and this Gandalf still doesn't know what it is at the time. He's
Yep.
like, whatever creature it was, like easily shut me down, and I had to give all my might in order to stop this thing, or in order to shut this door. And he does, but then the door gets destroyed. Crazy! It's so cool to me. But anyway, that's what this chapter is about. The Bridge of Khazad-dûm. It's about their battle. They finally meet a Balrog, and they go on the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, and Gandalf dies. Or falls. What else did you guys have in this chapter? The whole tone of this chapter was kind of dark and pretty creepy, but
I felt like I wish he would linger on some of the battle stuff a little longer. It felt like it goes by so quick.
yeah.
The dark skin, greenish scales. Boromir swings his sword, and the sword actually breaks like it was notched.
Yeah.
And then I also was a little confused. It was a large orc, not a cave troll, that came in and stabbed Frodo,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting. And I like that he didn't mention the mithril yet.
Yeah.
And it was already discussed, but it was kind of like, ooh, we know, we're in on the secret.
Yeah, seriously, I know. That was great. I love that. Because Gandalf for sure, and there was like more passage of time that went along with that. It wasn't like, oh, they just, won the small little battle and they found out that that Frodo was okay.
Right.
Aragorn slings Frodo over his shoulder,
Yeah,
and they're
thinking
running,
he's
and Gandalf
dead.
thinks he's dead at this time, which is crazy. And Frodo's like, I have a secret, but he doesn't really tell him at that moment. Which is great.
And Gandalf had already told them all about the mithril vest that Bilbo had. So then Frodo realizing that last chapter was great.
Yeah, it was really good.
Does Boromir's horn do anything?
Great question. I love that he blows it all the time. He's an interesting character to me. He's so much more interesting in the books, but I had the same thought. I'm like, why does this guy in the middle of his battle blow his horn to signal, Gondor needs to come? I'm like, what?
I know. I'm like, if it has magic power, did Elrond say something about it? Like, don't blow it again, because if he does, it's gonna like do something good.
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was like, be quiet, like your journey's starting, don't drop
Oh
attention to
like,
yourself.
chill. That's not our vibe.
Yeah. I thought it was just like a confidence boost. Like he's like, okay, it's time to go. And
Yep.
then did
The
that.
horn in the movies is so cool sounding. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Cool.
I kind of love that he's blowing it. Another scene that I actually love too is what was the?
Maybe I should just sit here and watch it while you guys.
Yeah, honestly, we'll just have it playing right there. Jen will watch it and we'll just discuss. Okay, so Boromir is blowing his horn. He's like all gung ho about this. Boromir is a weird dude because he's laughing through the caves. He had this one moment where I forgot the exact line of it, and I gotta write after that. But
he threw the stone into the lake.
yeah, exactly. He
And
threw the stone into the lake.
Not the hobbits like in the
Exactly.
movie.
Yes, you're
It's
right.
like,
Exactly.
Okay, Boromir.
And then he's like, the hobbits have to reprimand him for doing that. He seems like the most childish out of all of them because he's like laughing through the caves. And then he has this one really brave moment that I actually loved, that Gandalf is on the Bridge to Khazad-dûm and Aragorn steps forward and is about to be like, you don't stand alone. So this is the whole full line. With a bound, the Balrog leapt full on the bridge. Its whip whirled and hissed. He cannot stand alone, cried Aragorn suddenly, and ran back along the bridge. Elendil, he shouted, I am with you, Gandalf. Gondor! cried Boromir and leapt after him. I'm like, I love this. He's so
Yes,
immature.
so
He's
great.
such like a child, but he's just leaping after him. Which, oh, sorry, my mind is going everywhere. Is Boromir the youngest member of the Fellowship?
I don't know.
It's surely not Gandalf.
Oh wow, yeah, you're right.
It's not Gandalf. It's not Gandalf. It's not Aragorn.
No, it can't be
It's
Aragorn.
not Frodo. It's not.
Can't
an
be
elf.
Legolas
It can't
or
be Legolas 'cause
Gimli.
he's immortal.
Well, we don't really
Gimli
know
seems
Gimli,
very
but
old.
he seems old. We
Legolas
don't know.
seems young to me.
In the books.
It would just be whether Merry or Pippin could be in there on the younger side because they're not Frodo's age, right? They might be in their 30s
No, I think
or
they're younger.
40s.
I think Sam might be the youngest. I think Pippin. Yeah, it says Pippin here. What are the ages of the?
Boromir's my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I just never liked him in the movie.
But he's so much better in the books because he hasn't done anything blatantly like bad yet, right?
Yeah, he's just an
Yeah.
idiot, kind of.
That's true.
Well, you know, because it wasn't it up on the mountain where he had that little thing with Frodo where he like grabs the
Yeah.
ring and he's holding it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Frodo's like, "Give it back," and you're like,
He
"Is
seems
going to?"
significantly darker in the movies.
Yeah,
than he
but
does.
here I'm like, I don't think he's even given a bad look yet. He just kind of feels a little funny.
Yeah.
he hasn't earned his
Oh,
other
nice.
side.
Yeah.
yet.
Does this help though? He
He's
jumps
still-
out to save.
I love this
God,
section.
no.
Yeah, yeah.
He's 41. Sam is 39. Mary's 37, and Pippin's 29. So he's
Oh,
like
wow.
middle of the pack. But he's 10 years younger than Frodo. Aragorn's
Wow, that's kind
88.
of crazy.
Bilbo or Gimli is 140.
Dang.
Yeah, nice.
Gollum's
Gimli.
about 600.
Wow.
Legolas is about 3,000 years old.
What?
Elrond is about 6,000 years
What
old.
the-
Galadriel is about 11,000 years old.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. What?
That's
in the world?
nuts. This is so cool. Another more lore. But yeah, that's interesting that you don't like Boromir, because he's not my favorite member of the trio right now, or
Yeah.
the trilogy of the Fellowship right now.
Boromir?
Mhm.
But I kind of love him.
He's the one who came up from Gondor to help. He's the one who
you
came
haven't
up
seen him in the movies yet.
110
Just Google
Sean Bean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't help me.
Yeah. But he's the one who came up and rode 110 days to get to them. I said rode. I don't know if he had a horse.
Oh, he's
but,
the one that dies.
Yeah.
well, he
Yeah.
does die. Yeah.
Why are
yeah.
you pretending like he...
Well, I'm pretending for myself, but yeah, he dies. He gets shot with arrows in the movies.
Yes.
We'll see what
Tragic.
happens in the
That-
book. Maybe he lives.
Oh, okay.
That's like part of why I think I don't like him is because from like the fragments of the movies that I'd seen as a child before I actually watched the movie, I had the understanding that he like kind of like wanted the ring and then
Yeah.
kind of like gave up in that battle and was like, fine, I'll just like die. And he kind of like wanted to go because he didn't trust
Interesting.
himself. So then in my mind,
Whoa.
I was like, ooh, like he doesn't trust himself, so he's just gonna like give up and like I didn't like that. But then I rewatched
don't
like
mind
when I
that.
actually watched the movie, that didn't seem like how it was like written at all. Like I think that was a
Yeah.
misunderstanding, but I'm kind of like maybe I can find that in the book.
Yeah, it's already headcanon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I don't know. I just don't love his attitude. I think he's like a little too gung ho.
Yeah, he seems like he's the like the daredevil of the group, to be honest. Like he
Yeah.
seems like he has no caution. Like he just wants to go and he wants to prove himself, and he's like really out there, let's, blow the horn of Gondor and be loud and blazing. I'm so curious to get more of like his motive and more of his background and more about his father and more about Faramir and stuff like that. I think that's going to flesh out his character more, because right now he just seems brazen, which I kind of love for him.
I feel like
Yeah.
he probably just has the least knowledge of all the magic.
Agreed.
So like Legolas
Oh,
has
yeah.
all the elf magic, Aragorn does as well, and then Gandalf is literally a wizard. So I feel like he's used to like trusting his human strength and his
Yeah.
his army, and then to have that contrasting with everybody else who's kind of like wary of all the magic and the evil in the world.
And hobbits seem really cognizant of this too.
Yeah.
That at least they can't do it, but they seem to respect it and know it.
Because they're like the little guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they have to.
Yeah. He does seem like maybe the most naive out of everyone here. And it's funny too, because I when I'm reading in the book right now, in the movies, Merry and Pippin are the comic relief, and they still are slightly the comic relief in the books. But I find Boromir to be the most comic relief out of everyone in the book so far. Like his lines are just like such like a dude's lines, such like an airhead's lines, and they just seem to come out of nowhere. Like I find myself to be the most similar to Boromir right now, which is why
That's
because if I'm walking along this like little lake and it's like late at night, you're darn right I'm picking up a rock and I'm throwing it in that lake.
And it's like he's carefree. He's just
exactly.
Frodo's like, I don't think it's wise to just give. He's like, wise? What are you talking about?
Like, shut up, you 51-year-old man.
Skipping stones, dude.
Yeah, Frodo like has a hissy fit about it. He like cries about it, not cries about it. But he's like, cry about it, you little baby. He's like freaks out. He's like, I wouldn't disturb the
like
waters
rightfully
if I was you.
so.
Yeah, agreed. It's a creepy situation. They just came across wolves and like, there's something already in the deep that they feel like is rippling the water. Super creepy. But
and you just toss another one and be like, see if we can get a little
yeah, exactly.
more.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
But what you said makes perfect sense because he doesn't seem to like understand even Middle Earth. Like so there's 3 characters at the end of the book, or at the end of this chapter especially, I want to talk about. And it's Boromir, Aragorn, and Gandalf. And it's the choices that all of them make. Boromir seems to go in with no understanding of the world, and he seems to jump in. To me, I don't know the difference between these two. I don't think exactly Aragorn has faced a Balrog before, but I feel like he knows what a Balrog is, at least. I feel like Boromir doesn't. He's jumping in, and he literally just yells out Gondor and jumps into this battle. Aragorn, I feel like, is jumping in out of loyalty to Gandalf, and Gandalf is doing something totally different that I want to talk about in a second. But I don't know. I like the contrast between those 3 people right now.
He's just like a military guy to me.
Yeah.
And that's like, he's calling on that.
Yeah.
I think.
I wouldn't mind him as a leader, to be honest.
One does not
Gandalf tells him to stop, and Aragorn and Boromir did not heed the command.
Yeah, I love it.
They're like, we're staying here with you. It also says Boromir raised his horn and blew. It rang out, orcs quailed, and the fiery shadow halted. So it's just weird that like
That's
orcs
crazy.
and the Balrog responded to the horn.
Yeah.
So whether power or just like curiosity,
like, wait,
it impacted
what was
that.
that?
Yeah.
I'll
Maybe
keep this jam
Gondor.
going.
Yeah. Maybe this is like touting Gondor. Maybe Gondor is really a kingdom to be feared, and like they don't.
Interesting.
Maybe they hear this and they think Gondor is coming to fight, and maybe they're scared by that. It's kind of a cool idea. But the last thing I want to talk about in this chapter is when Gandalf gets knocked out, because it's totally different in the movies from the books. And this is what it has, and just in one small little thing. With a terrible cry, the Balrog fell forward, and its shadow plunged down and vanished. But even as it swung, or even as it fell, it swung its whip, and the thongs lashed and curled about the wizard's knees, dragging him to the brink. He staggered and fell, grasped vainly at the stone, and slid into the abyss. "Fly, you fools!" he cried, and was gone. Which is very different from the movies. In the movies, the thing knocks him off, grabs him by the knees with the whip, and Gandalf essentially he is able to grab the stone bridge. And then he like pushes himself pretty much onto the bridge, and then looks at the fellowship and goes, "Fly, you fools," and then lets go, and then goes down. In the movies, it seems like it is his absolute choice to do this.
Yep, you're so right.
In the books,
wow,
what
I
is
missed
going
that
on?
Distinction. You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's like a weird little thing, and it changes the whole character of. It changes this idea too, because it seems like Gandalf has actually died. If I'm reading this in the books and I don't know anything about the movies, Gandalf is dead to me.
Yeah, you're right.
100%, because he didn't do this with any choice. It's like this thing took Gandalf with him, and so like the guide for the Fellowship is gone, and the Fellowship is like going to dwindle after this. It's a pretty terrifying thing.
He's not a human.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, do they die?
Yeah, that's a great point. Which
but we don't know
I'd probably
much.
be questioning myself at that point when I'm reading this series. Can Gandalf die?
Right.
But in the movies, when he jumps off of this thing, even though you kind of think he's dead,
Yeah,
I
it
still
was,
remember
like,
in the
on
second
purpose.
when the second movie started, I'm like, oh, he's gonna be back. Don't worry.
Because you feel like it's part of his plan.
Exactly.
If he just lets
Yeah,
go.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
intention. You're like, there was a spark in his eye. There was
Yeah.
something there.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? Like, you knew it would lead to good. I didn't know if he was going to
Yeah.
come back, but I knew that it was better that he did that for some reason.
Yeah.
Just that, like, trust, you know? But
And it is like almost, I don't want to say it's comedic, but it almost is more comedic. Fly, you fools is like a funny line rather than a dead serious line. In the movies, Fly, you fools has such such hefty weight to it. And in this one,
Yeah.
I just imagine Gandalf flying down
I
this cloud.
know.
Fly, you fools!
yeah.
A little less
different
exciting.
He's like his last dig in the fellowship. You guys are fools. Get out of
Yeah.
here. I think it's just like an interesting change here that they did in the movies. I kind of like it in the movies, but I don't know. It just doesn't give him a choice over it, which I think is an interesting decision. But that's all I have for this chapter. I don't have a lot for the next one either, but we'll go to the next one, Lothlorien.
The only other little note I had is just that it said Aragorn smote the ground the captain stood on in his path, just because there were a few more orcs they had to get through. And then it said the rest of the orcs ran away in terror, or something like that. Oh, fled the terror of his wrath. So
Dang.
again, just like more depth to these orcs. They're not just running at him. Like in the movies,
Yeah.
it feels like they're just getting ready to be killed.
Yeah.
But here you're like, oh yeah, they're scared. They're
Yeah.
running. They're nervous.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a cool section too. In the movies, you have maybe a little bit of that, but in the movies, they seem like a bunch more of a mindless group of people.
Yeah, you're right.
In the books, they
Yeah.
seem like they have a bit more like organization, and
They
like-
seem like their own little tribes too.
Yeah.
Yep.
it's kind of cute actually. I kind of don't mind them. All right, chapter 6 is Lothlorien.
Mourn Gandalf, get moving. Lothlorien, Hildar's rude, Elvish rope, treehouse,
Eldar is
Gollum,
rude, yeah.
elf dwarf beef. Then it's resolved. Lady welcomes them. Heavenly forest.
Love that. That's a great summary right there.
That's good.
Yeah, this was a not an action-packed chapter, but a info dump. I felt like there's a lot of stuff that was happening in this
There's
chapter.
also
I
like no
understood this
Boromir in this
You
chapter.
understood this one?
The half of it.
Nice.
Yeah, there isn't any Boromir in this chapter. Yeah.
Because it broke it up into two for me.
Oh, really? That's so weird.
Wait. Boromir's still with them though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, like, was he even
He
mentioned?
just
a
had his
single
moment
time?
in the other chapters. so
Yeah,
he's
like I don't
not-
even remember him being mentioned.
Yeah. I like this little elf kingdom. This is where I would be.
Yeah, this kingdom is awesome. I'm a fan of this kingdom.
I had a hard time picturing it. I should have had done some research on it, see what AI could do. Because I think just the trees and then like going up and then they built a platform. I was like having a little bit of a hard time, and then I was picturing it like kind of magical, but then it felt like it was more magical than I was imagining.
Yeah,
But I
same.
didn't know how to turn up the magic
yeah,
in my mind.
yeah, for sure. I'm kind of the same. Like I don't know how I don't know in my head what's a picture of some of these realms. Like the movies, I think did a good job of like I don't know, because this is my qualm with Lord of the Rings. It just doesn't feel like gritty and like earthy enough. Or Rings of Power. It doesn't feel gritty and earthy enough. Where Lord of the Rings did. Even like the realm of like Elrond, like even Rivendell and Lothlorien, you know, they felt like magical, but they still felt like places on Earth. Where Rings of Power didn't. But some people talked about how Rings of Power seems like it's a better depiction of what the books actually have, which is like these completely other realms, like these places that are so filled with magic it doesn't look like anywhere else on Earth. It looks like clean and perfect and pristine. And maybe Lothlorien really is like that, where you walk through this forest and it's like a perfect forest, and you walk to like their tree houses and it's like these perfect little things that you like, you know.
I mean, I had a perfect picture in my mind.
Nice. Well, even Frodo said there were no dead things, no dead flowers, no dead trees. So then I thought, what would a forest even look like if there was nothing dead in it? No dead leaves on the ground. You know, just like everything is alive.
Like grass.
Unicorns everywhere. Yeah.
I feel like it wouldn't be a healthy forest.
Right.
If
It's
I'm wrong, is it?
magic. It doesn't matter.
Ah,
it doesn't need. Yeah, it
true.
doesn't need the deadly.
This isn't in the movie at all, though, right? Like, I don't
It
remember
is.
this place.
It is, but
it is.
It's well, the place is, but it's much quicker. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, like, I think it's Gimli. It's focused on him as he's walking,
Yeah.
and then he like turns and there's like a arrow right in his face. And I think that's how it starts. And what's his name? Hildor or something.
Yeah.
I feel like in the movies I did not like him.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, this guy's really obnoxious. But here I like him. I feel like he's trying to represent things
Yeah,
well.
honestly,
he seems
yeah.
like a nice guy. But he's like a little bound by the rules of his kingdom there.
Yeah, he seems like he's like in inner conflict and turmoil over the rules of his kingdom. He seems like he wants to let these people go and even let Gimli go. I like that they had to blindfold him here to walk him into this. He's like, it's the rules of our kingdom. We have to let this. We have to do this. Like, I thought that was hilarious.
I do
but
not remember this at all.
in the movies, this is when so they're walking through, and Gimli tells the hobbits, he goes, come closer, come closer. He's like, they say a witch lives in these woods, and all who hear her spell, or all who hear her voice are, held captive under her spell. And then Gimli goes, here's one dwarf she won't ensnare so easily. I've got the eyes of a falcon, ears of a fox, or something like that. And then he turns around, and all of a sudden the arrows are right in his face.
You nailed it.
And then Haldir goes, your dwarf breathes so loud that we could have shot it in the dark. I was like, that's a great line.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
that
good.
was in here too.
But yeah, that was in there too. But it was I think the group. I think it was
Yeah, I
like
was
they were
gonna
just
say,
talking
like,
about
all
the
the
general
hobbits
movement of
or-
the group.
yeah.
Yeah. There was another point here where they don't seem to be able to hear Haldir. Haldir seemed like, where was he in location?
I thought he was up in the trees.
Yeah.
So-
That's what I thought.
But just like the trees are so close, he's just like Tarzan Ewok,
Yeah.
just like going from tree to tree. And
But was I wrong in thinking that Legolas was the only one that could hear him?
but even Legolas, I thought, didn't hear him until the last second, because Legolas was going up the tree, I think.
Oh,
He's
okay.
like, oh, I think we're gonna have to sleep in the tree. And then the hobbits are like, I don't know, I'm not a bird, I'm not gonna perch up there. And they're like, well, you're not gonna be on the ground. And then Legolas goes running up the tree, and then I felt like he jumped down or was startled because he wasn't paying attention, didn't think to look up in the tree, but then realized someone was there or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then right then is when then he realized, oh wait, this is an elf. We're all right. Cool.
That image is so funny. They're going in a tree, and Legolas is talking to the Fellowship down there, and all of a sudden he turns around, and Haldir is just, hey guys,
Yeah.
I've been calling you guys out the entire time. Like, he's just sitting in the tree with them.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, didn't see you there.
I love when the elf just like pops his head up and just goes orcs, and then he goes back and immediately tosses the ladder up. That was great.
Yeah, this place does seem very magical, though.
Definitely. The water is singing.
Yeah.
The trees are growing upright.
All right. Here's a little mini theory.
Ooh,
The maiden Nimrodel.
Mm-hmm.
What if she's Goldberry?
Ooh.
And she never went to her man because she found a new man.
Oh, I am so into this.
Her mantle white was hemmed with gold.
Oh, that is
I
Goldberry.
was like, oh, interesting. Interesting.
That feels like so long
In
ago.
Lorien
Yeah.
the
Different book.
Fair. And so fair and gold were both things used, like words used to describe Goldberry. So I just thought it was interesting as I'm like reading this, and then I was like, oh, it's too late. This is canon. She's literally, it's named after a river. She lived next to a river, and her name is Goldberry, the river goddess or whatever she was called.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. Bless you.
I forgot. Yeah, they found her in the reeds or something.
Well, right. And so I'm like, if she was home next to a river and that was kind of her thing, so then Tom Bombadil finds his river lady somewhere else. And
I didn't actually look up any articles on this, but I started to type in Google, is Nimrodel, and then the first result is Nimrodel Goldberry.
wow, nice.
So you're on the right
All right,
track.
good.
I
I'm glad I'm
love
not the
that.
only one. And it's like, no, she's not.
Yeah, I'm sure the first answer is like, no, don't be an idiot. That's a great connection, actually. Maybe, yeah, she was after her man, and then all of a sudden she meets Tom Bombadil. And who can top Tom Bombadil? I mean,
Impossible.
yeah.
Ageless.
Yeah, seriously.
Good old Paddington.
Yeah. Man, I forgot. That does seem so long
That
ago.
was-
I know.
Yeah.
We've really been on a journey. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
It feels like it.
I know.
Even more.
So
for
many
me.
songs through this
We're
whole
like
thing.
a quarter of the way.
The name of Aragorn, son of Arathorn, is known in Lorien, said
Yeah.
Haldar. And he has the favor of the lady. I'm curious what that is, because it's I was confused. Like, he's been here before, I guess, but at first I thought he wasn't. But then he loves this place, and he felt like it was familiar to him. So I'm curious, like, what it was, where that came from. He gets around. Everybody loves Aragorn.
There was Aragorn's connection to this place seems so bizarre. Like, I don't know. This whole realm is like too ethereal for me to understand. Like, I weirdly, this is gonna sound terrible. I like them in Moria more than I like them in Lothlorien.
I get that a little.
It's so
Absolutely
concrete
not.
until Lizzie's like a cave. You are out of your mind. You
This is
serial killer.
where I'm out.
I almost picture them just like with Tom Bombadil. I'm like, oh, they're on mushrooms again.
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
they're getting high
Yes.
again.
Yes.
Where, like, the magic of this forest isn't just it looks great. They're not even sober-minded anymore. They're high on this
Yes.
forest, and they're just like in a
They're seeing
dream.
visions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this feels so crazy that, and that's the part that I just am like, I'd rather them be sober.
Yeah.
You know, and just like handling what's coming. So this is just funny. I'm like, they're
And
they're
his
just in the
writing
forest
style
getting
changes
high.
too. So when he writes in the Lothlorien chapters, he writes super like, and this person, like, here's one of these lines that I have. I thought this was a beautifully written section, but at the foot of Frodo, or at the hill's foot, Frodo found Aragorn, still standing and silent as a tree.
Beautiful.
What?
At the foot of
At the foot of Frodo, where there's a feet
Beautiful
podcast.
feet.
But in his hand was a small golden
Make a lot of
bloom.
money. What?
Those hobbit feet, though.
I know. Can't resist those. I don't know.
Wait, say it again.
He goes, but in his hand was a small golden bloom of Eleanor, and a light was in his eyes. He was wrapped in some fair memory. And as Frodo looked at him, he knew he had beheld things as they once had been in the same place. For the grim years were removed from the face of Aragorn, and he seemed clothed in white, a young lord, tall and fair, and he spoke words in the Elvish tongue, to one whom Frodo could not see. Arwen, Undamniel, Namari, he said, and he drew a breath, and returning out of his thought, he looked at Frodo and smiled. Here is the heart of elvendom on earth, he said, and here my heart dwells, unless there be a light beyond the dark roads that we must tread, you and I. Come with me. And taking Frodo's hand in his, he left the hill of Saren Emeroth and came there never again as a living man.
Weird way to end.
Such a weird way to end.
And I feel like this was not the first time, but it feels like the first time since the early chapters where we were almost taken out of the story, and now he's a historian again telling us how it ends. Like saying, as a living man, like,
Yes.
yeah, Aragorn's going to die eventually, and he never comes back here. It's almost like a spoiler or like something. I'm like, oh man, like why do that?
Yeah, seriously.
Why hit us like that, you know?
They
We're
do
trying
that
to enjoy this magical place.
right before with Frodo, too. Because it says, when he had gone and passed again into the outer world, still Frodo the Wanderer from the Shire would walk there, upon the grass among Eleanor and Nymfredil, the fair Lothlorien. So it's like Frodo the Wanderer. It's not like...
Wow, you're right.
That's a
You're
great one,
right.
yeah.
Like, that struck me as weird, but I didn't even process why. Yeah, you're right.
So Frodo comes back, I guess, but
But
Aragorn doesn't.
Wait, say it again, because in my head, it was almost like in his mind he was there.
Which is the
Okay,
thing that
yeah,
trips
because
me up
the
about it.
and that's
sentence
why I view
before
it like
that-
heaven almost.
Yeah.
Like forever, this is
Agreed.
his like ideal.
Though he walked and breathed, and about him living leaves and flowers were stirred by the same cool wind as fanned his face, Frodo felt that he was in a timeless land that did not fade or change or fall into forgetfulness. When he had gone and passed again into the outer world, still Frodo the Wanderer from the Shire would walk there, upon the grass among Eleanor and Nymfredil in fair Lothlorien.
Interesting.
So
Wait, what is that?
I don't know
It
what
almost
that
feels
is.
like, oh, that's
That's
somewhere on
It
this
feels
page
like
or
they are
maybe right
tripping.
before. Well, yeah.
They're
then it
either in
feels-
heaven and they're dead, or they're on mushrooms.
Yeah.
And it feels like they are forever, like for the rest of their lives, when they're daydreaming, this is what they're thinking of.
Yeah.
Oh, how magical is this? But again, not fully captured in the movies.
Yeah.
Although it gets
A little.
Can't-
there, yeah.
It's not like foreshadowing. of,
But in
like-
my mind, I'm like, I don't know how to picture a place like this.
Mm.
So weird.
is it like
It is.
like
It's like
unfiltered?
J.R.R. got
mind
high
of,
while he
like-
was doing this whole thing.
Yeah.
Unfiltered, you're saying?
Yeah, like I'm like if all realms were, if you were able to see through all the realms of the world,
Yeah.
would you be seeing? Would this come forth like these thoughts? It's like they're in the elvish land, but now they're seeing like
Like time doesn't exist. They're
Yeah.
seing like the past, present, and the future all
Yes.
simultaneously in this
Yeah.
one realm.
that's
That's a great point because
Whoa.
the writing kind of lends an ear to that, where like Frodo doesn't seem to
and
experience
they're in
time,
this
and then that's
elvish
why
land.
Tolkien, that's why Tolkien writes this idea like he never came again as a mortal man. You're like, oh,
Whoa. Like they
That
step
was
outside of
Yeah.
time. Whoa.
Yeah, because that's what. Never mind.
But I mean, I think you're hitting something like with
Because
that
that just feels like what like heaven or God would be
Yeah.
like. So then it feels like this elvish land is with the God, like that same essence, and maybe the time doesn't exist. Maybe
Yeah.
you're seeing all the, like you were saying. I'm
There's
just
this
repeating what you said.
take a slice of the undying lands on
In-
Middle Earth.
In Rivendell, there was memory of ancient things. In Lorien, the ancient things still lived on in the waking world.
Oh,
yeah, what a
So-
great line.
Where are
That
you
is a
finding all
great
these
line.
lines? So quick?
I got all the good ones.
Oh, yeah,
I'll give you my
Spark notes.
Yes.
Lizzie's spark notes.
that's a fascinating point, Jen. That was so astute.
Thank you very much.
I never.
One.
I know that Tolkien hates like the allegory of his work and stuff like that, or never wanted this to be an allegory.
Oh,
And never
sorry, did I
forced that
go
on
there?
anybody. No.
No, you didn't.
But I think when readers get that stuff out of it, he didn't really intend it to mean those things. But I think there's so much that you can draw on that like we as readers get to participate in, which is different from like the work of Lewis, because both of them quarreled over that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Lewis's work seems blatantly allegorical, and you have to go figure out what he was talking about as a reader. With Tolkien, I like it, I don't know, better. It's just different, but I like it a lot now because it's like he created this world, and he created Lothlorien not really with any intention for it to be, this heavenly place or like this realm of heaven. But it's like a slice of the undying lands brought to Middle Earth that you get to experience what it's like to be undying. And we now as readers get to instill like a ton of meaning into that, into whatever you believe about like, the life after death or whatever it might be. I think that's such a fascinating point. You're like including the reader's perspective on things more than just you're instilling your own imagery into this. I think it's a better form of writing to do that. I think it's great. Tips for pronouncing Elvish. C is always pronounced as a K. Someone just said that. Good to know.
Celebrimbor.
Galadriel is older than the sun and the moon. Oh my gosh.
What the?
Wow. But yeah, Galadriel dwells in Lothlorien, no? So
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense.
No,
It does.
I'm processing that.
But yeah, this
Galadriel lives in Lothlorien.
I think
Yeah, like she's the
Galadriel's
lady
Arwen's
of.
mom, right?
no.
No.
Elrond
What,
is-
is she any other connection? to
Elrond
anything?
is
Is
Arwen's
the
dad,
mom?
Yeah, but who's
but not the mom. There was no mother. There was no mother.
I thought she was the mom, and that's
Uh-uh.
why Aragorn was like favored by the lady because he'd been there, and that's like
Mother-in-law.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I literally was wondering,
I
like,
was like, it
why?
has to be like a
Was Aragorn
relative.
hanging out here a little bit?
Who was?
So maybe
'Cause
another woman will speak in the next chapter. We haven't heard a
Yeah, when
woman
are the
say
women?
anything since they left the Shire.
Calabrian
So
or Calabrian.
Whoa.
it's been a little long. Farmer's
Caleb
Maggot's
Ray.
wife, I think,
Is
was the
who?
last woman.
Is Arwen's mother.
And
Whoa!
she's-
Daughter of the elf queen Galadriel, ruler of Lothlorien.
That's what I'm
Galadriel.
saying.
Hold up.
Whoa.
Grandma.
Okay.
No way. So Grandma Arwen is, or Galadriel is. Mine is blown. Sorry, I can't even say words. Arwen.
That's okay.
Galadriel is
Arwen's-
Aragorn's grandmother-in-law, soon to be grandmother-in-law.
That
So,
is
That
crazy.
girl is in Lothlorien though.
I think she's-
Galadriel
Or
is
no?
in.
Who'd you just
Lothlorien.
say?
So-
Who is like the descendants?
Because
For
Aragorn and Arwen are
Galadriel's
related, I believe,
daughter
somehow.
got with Elrond, had Arwen.
But we don't know who got it.
Yeah.
She was the mother.
Galadriel's daughter. Yes.
I don't know. I'll have to
'Cause-
look up these things later.
Aragorn and Arwen are related though somehow.
They are related.
Yeah, like
Whoa.
thousands of years ago. But I guess that doesn't really matter if they're already thousands
Also,
of
if
years
you're
old.
not the same species, doesn't matter. Oh, but if they're
Whoa.
somehow related.
I mean, I don't know
Well-
about species.
Well,
but
isn't Aragorn slightly elvish? He has to be.
he's, according to the movies, like, or what did it say? The Dunedain or Dunedain. So
Oh,
that's why
yeah.
he's old. Like, he lives
The-
a long
I thought
time.
elves just
But I
live
don't know how
forever,
long
though.
that is. Is this
Mhm.
like 200 years? Or is it 500 years?
Well, he's like 80 now.
Right, and he looks
not
good for
crazy
80,
old,
but
yeah.
but he's not. Yeah, like
What?
he
It's
doesn't
still
look.
possible.
He doesn't look like he's still 20. Like the elves,
Yeah.
I think are 1,000 years and they still look 20.
That's
And
what
so-
I'm saying though. By
For sure.
species, I mean like how like they don't have the same.
But that's the craziness of it,
bloodline.
Yeah.
and that's why the
Well,
elves are saying it's a blessing and a curse.
Hmm.
You see everyone die.
Yeah, I mean, I even meant death is a blessing and a curse because I forget if they were saying it or if it was something else, but it's like the idea that and things coming to an end is a reward because it increases the value of everything you do.
Hmm.
So the elves see that
Whoa.
for humans it is a blessing and a curse. You die, that's unfortunate, but you get to experience life in a fuller way because of it, kind of.
Where the elves just do whatever.
Yeah, like wouldn't things just
We
kind of
have
get
no
old like after a
Yeah.
while? I'm picturing The Good Place. You guys ever watch it?
Uh,
It was interesting, and they played with some of that stuff too. We're like, if you're just doing a good thing forever, when does it become a little like, all right, we've been doing this for a while?
That's a good question.
That's so interesting.
So yeah, maybe the elves are a little like. Well, that's why they come off a little obnoxious, kind of rude.
Yeah.
We've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Nothing matters.
They're
I'm just
a little-
off in heaven
They're a
hanging
little
out.
haughty. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're often Lothlorien hanging out.
Why, when
Getting
they
high
were
on
gonna go in
mushrooms.
the tree, did they say, "We'll take the hobbits. We're not afraid of them"? Like, that
Oh,
confused
yeah.
me, and I wanted to know how that was in the audiobook because I was like, "Is that a joke, or is that like genuine?" Because they've never seen a hobbit, or they know that they have the ring or something.
They
I
just
was
like
so-
trusted them. They're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, no big deal.
Yes, that didn't
We're
sound
not
like
afraid
a joke.
of them.
I do love that they didn't really know about hobbits, or they hadn't really like heard about
Yeah.
hobbits for
Right.
a long time.
But
was like-
they're still a lot smaller than them,
Yeah,
so
for
they
sure.
feel like they could take them.
Yeah, it's very true.
But
Just
even the
hop on
hobbits,
back.
I felt like the hobbits almost were offering something to them too. They're like, oh yeah, we've heard of the Grey Havens over west of where we
Yeah.
are. They're like, oh, can you tell us about this? We haven't heard anything about it in a long time. And then I think it was Pippin, maybe Mary, is like, oh no, I've never actually left the Shire until this trip, so I can't tell you anything about it. I just know it's over there.
That's so
It
great.
is funny,
that
the
too.
dynamic.
I know. Yeah, there's like weirdly comedic things about this. I kind of love it.
I think I'm just missing.
All right. Anything else in this chapter? Before we do the favorites?
Nothing else.
All right. Let's do who gets the basket of mushrooms, who is the hot tamale, and What's your favorite moment?
I think we skipped me.
Just get ready with your dittos, you know?
Exactly.
I'm going Boromir as my basket of mushrooms.
Whoa!
He deserves it in this one. I
That's
love him.
crazy.
He's jumping in willy-nilly, just like no thought for his life in front of a Balrog of Moria. Crazy.
So is
So
Aragorn
crazy.
and Gandalf.
Yeah, but they're like you expect it from them.
And like Aragorn's like quadruple his age
Yeah,
or whatever,
exactly.
you know, like
True.
a little different.
Yeah.
And Aragorn's been in Moria before. Boromir is just like,
Yeah.
so that's why he's gonna be hot tamale for me.
I like it. Hot tamale. My hot tamale is Aragorn for that last line.
Oh, nice.
When he's like having like a little
Yeah.
thing with Arwen in like
so true.
he's not there but might be there, and
Right.
this little weird time moment.
Fantasyland
Yeah.
Fantasyland moment. Yeah, that was some hot tamale stuff.
I'm gonna say Aragorn's my hot tamale. I'm gonna say my favorite moment is Gandalf fighting the Balrog at the door when all the magic is happening and he's
That's
like
cool.
trying to shut the door. And basket of mushrooms. I don't know. Revisit. Give me a minute. I'm gonna think. I feel like I definitely had one when I was reading this, and I don't remember who I was gonna give it to.
Honestly, Gandalf was pretty great in these.
That's true. He gave it all.
I know.
Yeah, I feel like they couldn't have done any of this without Gandalf. They wouldn't have even gotten into the mines, and then they certainly wouldn't have been able to find their way through. And maybe Gimli could have. I don't know, but not easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he'll get my basket of mushrooms.
I
Gandalf.
like that.
I want to give Aragorn the basket of mushrooms, but I already gave him hot tamale.
You can give him two.
Okay, I'll give him both. Because he, like, stepped up and led everybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
true, you're right.
when they were going to blindfold Gimli, we didn't talk about that
right,
at all.
You're right.
He kind of, like, diffused the situation. Was like,
Yeah.
So
everybody's
good.
going to get blindfolded.
That was good.
And then he gave a little sass back to Legolas, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice." He really it feels like fair. He's not just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
boys with Legolas because they've known each other longer
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
It was good.
And the only thing that I didn't like about Aragorn in this section of chapters is that when they come out of Moria, they're like running to Lothlorien, and they run like 20 miles, and Aragorn is like still running on ahead of them, and the hobbits are like their legs are like numb, they can't like move, they're so hungry, and they just want to like get a meal, and Aragorn's like guns a-blazing going in. I'm like, just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Let them catch their breath, dude.
At least he was nice. He apologized for
Yeah.
it and stitched him up. But
Yeah.
he was not thinking.
I think my favorite moment in this whole thing was the duel at Khazad-dûm. Now I know, like, even the small little bit of lore that I liked that the book gave was why Khazad-dûm, the bridge of Khazad-dûm, is the way that it is, because it's like the last station where if orcs invaded or the whole city got invaded, then dwarves could fight one-on-one or on the bridge. I'm like, that's such a
Crazy.
great defense strategy. It's so cool. And then just the whole battle that Gandalf has with the thing on Khazad-dûm, I thought that was just like, the movie was so good and the book was just fantastic along with it. I just love that moment. So
Yep.
it's fine. Ditto.
I was gonna say.
I mean, honestly, that is a ditto for me. I think that was my favorite moment. A lot of good moments, but that'll be the one I'll remember in many chapters more.
Yeah.
Jen, anything stand out? You want to ditto anything in particular?
I like what Lizzie was saying.
What part?
Aragorn.
Ah, yeah.
But he's my
Insert the word
favorite.
Aragorn.
I
Yeah.
always pick him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good.
he can be a basket of mushrooms and hot tamale.
From what I remember, I had a crush on him in the movie. So
Oh yeah.
Respect.
Of course.
I had a crush on him in the movies too.
Yep,
Nice.
big
Everyone
time.
did.
what?
only
No,
natural.
just
Man.
me. He's mine. Just kidding.
Well, thank you for joining us on our journey of the Fellowship of the First Time Readers.
See ya.
Bye.
Until next time. See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Did you say it
You have
probably
to
won't
read
be a
one
next
more.
time?
Jen, no.
No, I said maybe I'll read it next
Oh.
time.
All right, good. Maybe we'll read it together. Would that help?
Yeah.
I've been telling you that, but you don't. Everything I give you hints about, you don't take.
Well, you
No,
guys.
I would need direct words. I'm good with that.
I said maybe we should read it, and I said, "Can I watch the movie?" And you said no.
Oh yeah,
Well,
because you
again,
can't do
because-
that. We'll watch together.
Okay,
at the end of
because
this
you've
one.
already watched the movie, you guys should just watch it before the next podcast episode.
Oh,
watch the
nice.
first.
That's what I said.
second half
But
of
it
the
needs
first
to be
movie together.
discussed. That's all I
What?
said.
Yeah, and then we'll sit
I'm
down and
sure
like
you'll
rediscuss
be
it. and
discussing
then-
it.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole
John
podcast
Trump's
is pretty much
name.
Yeah.
yeah.
movie discussion of it.
It'll help.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll see you later.
I did ask you to read it.
You did?
Yeah, the last time we were recording, I was like, maybe it's like you could read it to me.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want to do that.
Really?
What?